Welcome to today's episode of Medically Speaking. Today, I am super excited. I have two very special guests with me today. I have Thomas and Ingrid Valente, two of our newest physicians who just joined our medical staff. And today we're going to have some interesting conversations and learn a little bit more about them and some of the skill sets that they're going to be bringing to the community. So, well, let's just dive in. I'll let you guys maybe introduce yourself a little bit, maybe tell us a little bit about your background, your education, and then we'll just have some conversation. So Ingrid, why don't you start?
Yeah. So I'm Ingrid Valente. I did my undergraduate education at Charleston Southern University, small private Christian university in Charleston. And then I went on to do my medical school training at Medical University of South Carolina, which is where I met my husband, Dr. Valente. And then I went on to complete my pediatric residency training at Baylor College of Medicine, associated with Texas Children's Hospital.
Awesome. Awesome. Thomas.
Yeah. So I, I'm originally, my family's originally from Brazil, but I was born here in the States and grew up in East Tennessee, in Bristol, Tennessee, and then went to undergraduate at Presbyterian College, just down the street.
Yeah.
So I'm a blue hose. And then after that, went to medical school at MUSC. Like Ingrid said, that's where we met. And fell in love, and then went to do residency in Houston, so also at Baylor, in the Texas Medical Center, which is the largest medical center in the world. So it was a really fun, really tough, and very challenging 5 years, but it was very fruitful and felt like we really grew a lot. So.
Yeah. Thomas, you are more than just a PC attendee. You played soccer at PC, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's how I ended up from, East Tennessee to PC is I was there on a soccer scholarship.
Yeah. So, I heard you're quite the star.
No, I was okay. I was a decent player, and it was an awesome experience, but, actually I sadly had a couple injuries that kept me out my sophomore and junior year. Technically, I had tore both my ACLs 11 months apart. So I was out for those 2 years, but then I came back senior year and played my last year, and I actually was captain of the team my senior year,
nice.
Which was cool. It was really kind of invested in the team and the guys, and I loved it. A lot of great relationships, and I was a mathematics major at Presbyterian, so have a big heart for the math department there. They definitely poured a lot into me and, really helped develop the way I think. So I have a lot to thank them for, I'd say.
Awesome. Good stuff. So now you guys both have some international roots and speak 3 languages.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about that. That's impressive.
Yeah. So I was born and lived for a couple years of my life in Colombia, South America.
Okay.
I came to the U.S. when I was about, I would say like close to 11 years old, and started school here, not knowing any English. So that was, a tough learning curve.
Sure.
I still remember it. But I feel like it didn't stop me from achieving the things that I wanted to achieve in life. It was sort of that force that I needed to be able to come to a country and not know the language and the culture. And then I developed a passion for learning languages. So I first started learning Italian, and I loved that. And then I met my husband and realized maybe I should learn Portuguese because most of his family is in Brazil, and so I would need a way to communicate with them when we travel to Brazil. So I started learning Portuguese during COVID when a lot of things went shut down and were virtual. So in between the hospital as a medical student, I'd go home and have a Portuguese tutor that lived in Brazil, and she would tutor me. So I did that for a couple of years and then became fluent.
Wow.
Yeah, her Portuguese is incredible.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I have a passion for languages, but also cultures. So I love to learn about everybody's cultures and what they do in different parts of the country, things like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we went to Brazil this summer, and it was the first, because of COVID and residency, it was the first time Ingrid had we had been married already for 3 years.
Yeah.
And was the first time going to Brazil to meet the family, and everybody was like blown away that my wife could speak like perfect Portuguese.
Probably better than you.
Probably better than exactly. Because Ingrid's very detail oriented. I mean, I'm a detail oriented person as well, but she like, when it comes to speaking Portuguese, I'm like very much, I'll speak slang and my grammar's like, not always the greatest, whereas Ingrid really learned very proper Portuguese with her language, teacher. So they were all amazed at how good she was speaking Portuguese. And then through her and her family, my Spanish has like tremendously taken off. I think I grew up speaking some Spanish in school, and it was always easy to convert from Portuguese. I grew up speaking Portuguese at home as well, and it was always easy to learn the Spanish. But then after meeting Ingrid and spending time with her family, it's definitely taken off. And then being in Houston as well, because like like I was telling you before, there's days we go to the hospital, and the only English I'd speak is with the other physicians. The patients would be like at the county hospital in Houston, which is Ben Taub. It's an amazing place to train, and you learn a lot, see a lot, but the patients are like, it's very rare you have like an English speaking patient. It's like 95% Spanish probably, and then the rest of it is like, it's like Vietnamese or Chinese or, so it's a very, very interesting place to learn.
Well, so just at top of mind, Spanish, super helpful in Greenwood. But it was actually interesting. We were chatting earlier, and you were telling me about kind of there's a number of folks like who speak Portuguese in the upstate of South Carolina that are actually seek out like your services because of that skill. Maybe talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when we came to Greenwood, we were not aware that there was a need in the Brazilian community. We were not aware that there was a Brazilian community nearby, but we hired our Brazilian nanny, who's been incredible, helping us take care of our son. And she shared with me that there was small communities around the upstate, specifically in Greenville, Simpsonville, Anderson, Greer, all those areas around us, where they did prefer to have a Portuguese-speaking physician, and those are hard to come by here in the state. So through her, we had been able to kind of share with the community nearby that we were here and we would love to help them, and if there was a need. So we now have a handful of patients that travel. I know I'll have a handful that come for pediatric care because it matters to them to speak to a doctor directly in their language as opposed to having an interpreter in between.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, same. I've already had like several Brazilian patients come see me in clinic, which is awesome. Like who would have thought that God would get to use us in that fashion, in a small town like Greenwood, so it's really neat to get to utilize those skills. And same, even and also, right, like definitely even Hispanic patients with Spanish, like my Spanish is, both of our language skills have grown tremendously because of each other, and God's used each other in that way to kind of, which turns out it's been super beneficial to patients, which has been cool. There's been several Hispanics in our clinic as well who have, the PA or one of the other physicians will grab me. Hey, we can't talk to this patient. Can you go over their audiogram with them? Like, yeah, sure, no problem. But yeah, I've had several, like 3 or 4 Brazilians already who've driven from like Simpsonville or Greenville to see me.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, talk to me a little bit about the transition from residency in a big city, one of the biggest medical centers in the world, to Greenwood, South Carolina, to self-regional healthcare. Maybe compare and contrast a little bit. What do you really like about Greenwood? Just in general, just give me your thoughts.
Yeah. So coming from obviously a big place like the Texas Medical Center, where you get, we were like Texas Children's, and I know MD Anderson and all those other adult hospitals where Thomas worked at, similarly to Texas Children's, we were the ultimate referral center. So not only did we receive patients from within the state or nearby states, we received patients from all over the country that would come as that was sort of like the last place where they were hoping to have that life-saving treatment or the top of the newest treatment available.
I mean, international even.
Yeah.
Because there were, I remember there's programs with like TCH and Anderson where there's
Absolutely.
like, they have like partnerships with like the UAE and like Qatar and things like that, where they would send like, I think for TCH, their transplant service, which which you would like take call and like cover all those kids overnight. And Ingrid would be like covering all those kids. And some of them are like from like Qatar or something like that, you know, because the government has partnerships with those institutions in Houston.
It did. And so it just drew people from many parts of the world and people that spoke dialects and languages that I didn't even know existed. So, you know, big place, right? So, but you know, it's interesting because the what the community needed there is not much different than what people here need. Even though it's a smaller place, it's the needs are still the same wherever you go. You know, they want a physician that truly cares about them. They want a physician that can explain things to them that they don't understand, and that can provide them all the options available. So it's like, you know, just bringing it down to like the basics of what brought us all to medicine. Patients all need that no matter where you go, whether it's a big city or a small city. It just ends up being the same. And so it's been really, really nice to be in a community where I'm not, the limitations are very little in terms of the quality that I can give patients, despite the size. So yeah, it's been definitely what we needed.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing in terms of just like kudos to you, Matt.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
no, I'm serious. And the job you've done is like, you know, I think moving here, I felt incredibly supported. The hospital purchased a lot of, you know, newer, updated equipment, things like that. That I agree with Ingrid. You know, it's a small town, but I feel like I can provide world quality care. You know, world class care here in Greenwood. Like, you know, there's, you know, I've had some cases already where like the things I've done have been like the first time it's been done here, but that we were doing, you know, daily over in Houston, and it went super smooth. And it was partially because of the things that the hospital was, you know, invested in, knowing that I was coming, you know. And so I definitely echo that. You know, it's smaller volume, but I mean, I've been incredibly busy and seeing the whole breadth of head and neck pathology here that I saw in residency, and praise God for the volume that we had in training, feel comfortable managing it. And but yeah, I mean, the Texas Medical Center is crazy. I mean, Texas Children's is the biggest pediatric hospital in the country.
In the world, actually.
And then,
it's the biggest hospital in the world.
Yeah, for Ingrid, she was at you're at TCH with Texas Children's and Ben Taub, which is the county hospital, which is like where all the underserved, you know, patients would go. So you would run like the NICU and stuff over there, and then I was for Baylor for like, because my training obviously is both across adults and children. I was working and operating at like 6 different hospitals across the Texas Medical Center, so it was very busy. It was, but it was super fruitful. You know, you leave feeling really prepared. But yeah, I was at Texas Children's, which is the biggest peds hospital in the country, and maybe the world. I think there might be one bigger in China, but I can't remember. And then the VA, which is the biggest VA in the country. So like all of the really crazy stuff that ends up within the veteran systems ends up in Houston. Ben Taub, which is our county hospital, St. Luke's and Methodist, which are both enormous private hospitals. And then at MD Anderson, you know, we spend a lot of time there as well doing head and neck cancer. So
very diverse,
which is the biggest cancer center in the country. And so it definitely was a really, really busy 5 years, but very, very fun. You know, that's very awesome. Fun.
I'll tell you, one of my dreams that I strive for here is I want us to be able to do as high quality care with good outcomes right here in Greenwood, South Carolina, for these folks that live in our community as what you can get in a hospital like where you guys trained. And it takes people like you, both of you, coming to our community to bring those skills and investment from the hospital, all of the folks that give money to the foundation to help support the hospital and advanced care closer to home. You know, Thomas, I don't know the number, but it was a significant investment to get the equipment that we just needed to update all of our ENT
Absolutely.
equipment. And boy, if we're going to do ENT here in Greenwood, let's take it up a notch. And Dr. Russ and Dr. Skates do a phenomenal job.
They're
Love
incredible.
those guys. They've
They're
been doing it here a
incredible.
long time. But bringing a fresh perspective, just finishing up residency, and bringing in new ideas, new techniques, and new technology. It's really invigorating to me to see kind of some of the things we're able to do. Can you maybe talk for just a second about some of the things some of the procedural things that you're bringing to our community that maybe we haven't done or maybe not at the same level before?
Yeah. So let's see some of the things. I mean, gosh, like you're saying that those guys are, they're phenomenal doctors, phenomenal surgeons. I'm at poor Dr. Russ, Dr. Skates, and Dr. Eisenhower. He's a gem. They're phenomenal men. So that's one thing I think has been an amazing blessing to me, is coming into a place with mentorship like that.
I agree.
I guess some of the new stuff, I think one of the things that's been big is that, obviously one thing I really have a passion for is I really do enjoy doing a lot of the head and neck cancer stuff. So I've been kind of spearheading the efforts with our head and neck tumor board, which honestly is something that I've been incredibly impressed with at Self Regional, is that, our medical oncologists, radiation oncologists, pathologists, our cancer navigators, the radiologists, we come together every Tuesday and talk about all of our new head and neck cancer patients in a multidisciplinary fashion, which is the way we did it in Houston. And I think it's the way that it should be done. And I've been really impressed by all of those folks. They're incredible physicians and an incredible team. So I think that our patients are getting really good cancer care in that sense. And then now I think I bring a little bit of, I have an interest in that. So a lot of the stuff that previously maybe my other partners weren't wanting to do, not necessarily weren't wanting to do, just that they're so darn busy that they were sending out to one of the other academic institutions. I think we're gonna try to keep some of that stuff here more so now. Other things like they're a little different is like for one thing the hospital invested a lot in was like surgical navigation for endoscopic sinus surgery. That was a really an awesome thing to think that we could bring to the community. The way I do my sinus surgeries is I do them navigated. And so if it's going to be ultimately sinus surgery, it sounds pretty benign. And for the most part, it is very routine, right? But it's routine because you have folks like Skate and Rust and myself who've trained years and years and years to do it in that fashion. But the reality is, the sinuses are between the eyes and under the brain. And so you're always on the skull base. You're always working around the eyes. And so the navigational system that I use when I'm doing my sinus surgery kind of helps identify the landmarks that you would know that you're approaching those locations. And so my instruments are, it's in real time. I have a CT scan with the patient's anatomy, and I know exactly where I am in 3 dimensions with their CT scan while I'm operating within their sinuses.
So cool.
So that's
That
new.
is
That's
really
that's
neat.
new. That's something new we brought. For things like, I think the indications for it are expanding within head and neck malignancy, but like sentinel lymph node biopsies in lieu of like full neck dissection. It's already the standard of care in Europe for like oral cavity cancers. Even they're doing sentinel lymph node biopsies for oral cavity cancer. We haven't quite gotten there yet here in the United States with our NCCN guidelines, but for melanoma and things like Merkel cell carcinoma, which is really rare for Merkel cell, but for melanoma, certainly there's a well-established role in sentinel lymph node biopsy. And so that's new that I'm going to kind of start tackling is our head and neck melanoma cases here. I've already had one where we had very successful sentinel lymph node biopsy performed in the head and neck, and that went really well. Praise God. I think that patient's doing well. And it's a really important thing in terms of prognosticating the patient. And so that's something that's new that I'm doing. I do my head and neck cancer cases with neuromonitoring. And so that's something new the hospital invested in, which is like a NIMS machine, which ultimately for thyroid cancer or parotid surgery, where you're operating around the facial nerve or the recurrent laryngeal nerve. I have equipment now intraoperatively that can help me identify and preserve and keep those structures safe. And so, yeah, those are some of the things that come to mind, I guess, that are more recent
long
changes.
list.
Yeah, recent changes. For the clinic as well, that was a big thing too for the clinic. We got, scope towers, which is new technology. So, previously scopes were done with like fiber optic cables and things like that. Now we have distal chip, which is essentially like digital imaging. So when you scope a patient and you're looking at their larynx or you're looking at the throat, the voice box, the nose, their sinuses, whatever it is, now it's projected onto a screen. It can be recorded. Those images can be uploaded to the patient's chart for comparison at later dates. And also you can show the patient what you're seeing. So it's like, if I scope a patient and I see a laryngeal mass, I can be like, hey, look, this is what we're going to the operating room to biopsy. And they can see it with their eyes. I think there's a lot of value in the patient knowing what you're seeing as well. Picture's worth a thousand words. So there are like a couple of the things that really come to mind. I've done a couple of laryngeal injections already, which is new to town for like vocal fold paralysis or atrophy, which is new. The other guys weren't doing that. They were previously sending some of that voice and laryngeal paralysis out. So ultimately, if someone has like a vocal fold that is immobile from a prior neck surgery or cardiac surgery, they can have a weak voice. And a lot of that can be related to unilateral vocal fold paralysis. So what I can offer them is like an awake injection in the clinic, where you do like an awake transoral vocal fold injection. And the idea is that you can't restore mobility, but you can add bulk to the immobile fold, which will improve glottic competency and where the vocal folds will meet in the middle, and you can get their voice maybe louder. You can provide a stronger cough, help perhaps with some aspiration if it seems to be related to glottic incompetence. And that's something new. We've already had like 3 patients we've done that too, just in the last, I've only been here for like 7 weeks. So it's been really, it's hit the ground. Dr. Russ, like, we got to keep you busy, son. So really hit the ground running. And it's been really neat to kind of see those things taking off.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, Ingrid, talk to me a little bit about your peds transition from residency to practice.
Yeah. So it's been a joy. It really has been. I could not have been more thankful, more blessed to have the team that I have. Coming in and fresh out of residency, I would say it's its own steep learning curve. When you go from being a trainee, where you have, you're taking a lot of that. You're taking charge of the care that you're providing to the patients, but you're not the end of that line, per se. You have an attending where you can kind of bounce ideas off of. But coming out of training and being that attending takes some used to, getting used to. But I was lucky enough to come and be able to have the group of women that I have from, Dr. Fuqua, Dr. Hughes, Gallman, Polanco, Dr. Jax, who I was actually friends with in medical school. So being able to have them, and then having nurse practitioner Beth, nurse practitioner Mandy, who have been there a little longer and kind of know how to navigate the system as well, in terms of referrals and the logistics of those things. A lot of those things that you kind of have to learn on the go when you start any new job, not just, here, but any new job. And so I've just been incredibly blessed to be able to text any of those women and say, hey, what do we do about this? Hey, this is my thought process. Like, normally I would have done this if I was at Texas Children's. Like, what are my options here? And they're so quick to answer. I called Dr. Polanco last week at 7 p.m. Because
many times
because I had Versalt that popped up, and I wanted to make sure that I took care of that while it was still in my mind. And I said, hey, can I call you real quick? And she was quick, 2 seconds. She said yes. And so I just it is a blessing, because not everywhere where people go do you have that kind of support system. So all that to say is that the people I get to work with are incredible. The nurses have been so patient and just like showing me how to order different things, oh, it's inpatient or it's outpatient, like all those things, right? The MAs are incredible. I mean, I can go on and on. The team there is really, really supportive. And then the other thing is just being able to have you guys, the hospital, where if I say, hey, I have an idea, maybe we could look into bringing this type of things into our Epic, our EMR, to maybe expedite certain things in our visits better, and to have the people that are interested in hearing what I have to say, as somebody who's been there a short time. You know, I think this will be my my 4th week since I've been here. And so just it's really been incredible. And of course, I can't speak more highly of the community here. I can't tell you the amount of times that I walk out of the room and I hear thank you more than 3 times. To me, that makes any bad day, any good day, just 10 times better. And because I know that patient, you know, they said thank you.
Well, and you're making a difference for them too.
So it makes a huge, you know,
Yeah.
just it brings a lot of impact
Yeah.
for them to be able to say those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
Ingrid always has a lot of good new ideas. She's always full of ideas. She's a go-getter. I'll tell you what. She's like, hey, we need to do this. I'll think about updating this. Or she's very almost like engineering brain, like always optimizing efficiency, optimizing efficacy.
That's
like,
awesome. I mean, that's exactly.
She's way fat. In
Yeah.
residency, I'd be like, how many patients do you see in clinic? I'm like, how do you do this? She's very, very efficient. So it's very impressive. And I think it's cool how much we've had to lean on each other in a small town, which is that's new.
That's really
definitely
cool.
new.
Being
And
able
that's
to
a cool part of our marriage.
Bounce ideas off
Yeah.
of each other for different.
Often.
Really?
Yeah, a lot actually. I'll call him. He'll call me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
That would be handy, I guess, having a pediatrician in the house or a,
Oh my gosh, yes.
ENT doc in the house.
I think
Yeah.
I asked her way more than she asked me. I mean, she asked me things here and there, but I'm like, hey, love, I got this little kid. Like, what dose should I do for this med? Or, what do you think of this? Or
Well,
blah blah blah. You know, and
small things.
Yeah, no, but I mean, a lot of my patients have benefited from the fact that I'm married to you. You know, which is cool.
That's really cool.
but
So the community in general, do you guys feel like Greenwood's been welcoming to you guys as you've transitioned here?
absolutely, yes.
Making some friends and
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
for
Good.
sure. We've been getting plugged in. We've been going to South Main here,
Okay.
South Main Baptist Church, just right down the street. Been doing that with Dr. Russ, my partner, and he
Yeah.
teaches Sunday school there. He's
Okay.
like, hey, come on to church. I'm
It's
like,
been
"All right,
really
sounds good."
cool.
So
We
we've been,
found a community very quickly.
yeah, we've had lunch with some of the friends from there. Like Noah's been our son. We have a son who's, I guess we haven't talked about. That's like our whole life. Like he'll be 3 in December, so like next month. And he's been making a bunch of little friends at his school, and he's learning English here in Greenwood.
oh, really?
Which,
Wow.
yeah,
He speaks a lot of English now.
he's like
amazing.
trilingual because we only did like Portuguese and Spanish at home, you know. And then we're like, he'll figure out the English. And
Yeah.
lo and behold, it's like he's figured out the English really fast. So we're
Yeah.
asking him like, hey, Noah, how do
Very
you say
brilliant.
I'm hung? How do you we'll say it in Portuguese? Like, how do you say I'm hungry in English? And he'll go, I'm hungry. And then like, well, how do you say it in Spanish? He'll say it in Spanish. Like, how do you say it in Portuguese? He'll say it in Portuguese. And so he'll
Wow.
It's
he can spit out all
interesting,
three. He's a bright little boy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's
It's
been
crazy
really
to see.
neat.
So he's been loving his
Wow.
school, you know, and playing with kids in the neighborhood. You know, in Houston, we lived in this like tiny little apartment.
because
in the-
it was so close to the medical center.
yeah, it's so close to the vet center. It's a tiny little apartment, and like, you know, and the little boy, poor guy, and he wants to say, oh, hey, Dad, let's go run outside. And
There wasn't
I'm
much
like,
to
okay,
run.
yeah, sounds good. So we do laps around the sidewalk on like concrete, you know, and now we have a neighborhood where he rides bikes around the neighborhood and runs in the backyard, and there's plenty of space, and he just gets to be, you know, a healthy little boy, and it's just that I think has been like just great to see.
It is a great place to raise, like to have a
Yeah.
family, raise your family.
Yeah.
We've been blessed. We found our community here really quickly.
Awesome.
And I have found that there is just, anywhere I go, people are so kind, but they're like genuinely kind, where it's like, oh, it's not just like, have a good day. It's like, how are you doing today? Like, are you enjoying the weather? Or like, it's true. No, but I'm serious.
Are you enjoying Greenwood? Everybody goes
Yeah.
I'll go to the grocery store and then, you know, have a just a very casual, very kind conversation with someone, and just like, wow, I just learned about that person. But you know, in a big city like that, it's so fast paced. Like people, you're lucky if somebody says thank you, or you know, and it's just part of being in a big city. That's just, you know, things just move faster. But there is a lot of good things in being in a small community where life just moves slower, and you get to actually meet people and who they are.
Yeah.
So all that to say is that I feel that we definitely have made the right choice.
Good.
So,
I feel like you're in the right
yeah.
place.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
been, I mean, we've been talking with you guys about coming here for years now. So
Yeah.
it's been
It's been a couple years.
a couple
hasn't it?
years, yeah, because
Yeah.
we met.
Talk to me about that. Remind me, say, just for whoever may be listening to this, how did you guys hear about Self Regional in Greenwood?
I'll
Do
let
me
you
to
take that.
I can
one.
take it. So my really good buddy from medical school, who's Davis Reed, who's one of the family docs in town. We were really good friends in medical school. We were like in the same Bible study. He, as well as
Zach Gray.
Zach Gray and Helen Gray. So Helen and I were like in the Helen and Davis and I were all in the same class, and Zach was like a year behind us, maybe
Zach Gray was in my
2
class.
years behind us then. He
Yes.
was 2 years behind us. But Helen and I mean, we were in the same group in anatomy lab, so
Wow.
we did anatomy together. Helen and I did, who's a hospitalist here.
Yeah.
So we had heard a little bit about Greenwood from them, but then really Davis was rotating as a resident at the time through the ENT practice. And Dr. Russ like, hey, do you know any ENTs? And he's like, actually, my buddy Thomas is an ENT resident in Houston. And so it was through Davis, that he was like, well, he's like, give me his number. Dr. Russ, give me his number. And so Davis texted me, hey, man, the ENT group here in town, they were wondering if you'd be interested in chatting with them a little bit about the practice in
Yeah.
Greenwood. And I was like, sure, I guess. I'd never thought about going to Greenwood.
Sure.
But turns out God had plans to bring us here, which is cool. So then, Dr. Russ called me and we're chatting it up, and I was like, man, this guy's really neat. He's a hoot. If anybody knows that, people watching this probably know Dr. Russ. He's a hoot. And so, I'm like, man, this guy's a really cool man. And so, we really got along really well. And then I was like, well, Russ, I'd be willing to come, take a look at Greenwood, see what it's like, see what the practice is like. But, my wife is a peds resident. So, we need a job for her as well, And so, well, give me a set.
Let me call somebody.
Let me call somebody. Yeah, exactly. Let me call somebody. And he calls me back 5 minutes later. Like, hey, I got an interview for a wife too.
I guess he called you.
Not saying. It worked out.
So then, we came interviewed and, fell in love with it. It was just, it felt right. And then, that was starting my 4th year of residency. So that was, 2 years ago. And Ingrid had
I was starting my 2nd year.
you were
of
just starting 2nd year. Exactly. And so, and then we're like, all right, well, let's do it. And then, after that, for me, for both of us, really, I think it really takes your training to another level in residency when a community is depending on you. That was, I noticed a big change in myself after we decided to come here. I was already focused in residency, obviously, to be the best surgeon I could be. But when you know that I know that it is the town of Greenwood that is depending on me. It's like you have a face that you're working for, or people that are depending on you. I think my residency training really took off to another level, because I would be like, okay, every single case was like, this is going to be me in Greenwood. I'm going to be doing this in a smaller community, so I'm not going to have as much support. It's game time. And so I think once I really knew where I was going to end up, I think my training just really took off to a whole nother level, because every single case, it was for this place. It was for this community. I wanted to be the best I could be for not just some random location that was theoretical in the future. I had an actual solid idea of where I was going and what I was going to do and what that may or may not look like. And so it really changed my training. And it also, I think, made me much more well-rounded as a laryngologist, because there was no this case isn't that big of a deal because I'm never going to do this. It was like, I'm going to Greenwood and there's no one else. I'm going to do this. And so, some folks are, for example, going into a fellowship in doing plastic surgery or laryngology or head and neck or pediatrics. They can, appropriately so, tailor their focus to that subspecialty. But for me, being a little bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to head and neck surgery, there was no like focusing on one thing. It was everything mattered. And so I went into every case in that sense. Like it didn't matter if it was like something I necessarily had a great passion for or love for or not. It was like I need to know this well, regardless of whatever subspecialty within otolaryngology it fell into. So I think that was a really cool thing I saw in myself. And I think I grew tremendously once I knew I was coming here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, if you guys think about it, in the next 5 to 10 years, you guys are the senior leaders of these practices. Don't think about that. And what you just said,
True.
Thomas, is exactly right. I'm so glad to hear, and I knew you're like this, but taking advantage of that opportunity at Texas where you are, because you will carry that with you. And when you're the senior partner, both of you, a few years from now, wow. What an impact you guys are making here and already, and certainly down the road. And I hope you guys do your career here. I really do. I truly do. I plan to be here. I hope you guys will stay with me
Thank you.
and keep doing the great care that you guys do. I speak on behalf of the whole entire hospital when I say this, in that we are extremely thrilled you guys are both here. And I thank you so much. And you guys are going to do great things for this community. You guys are going to save lives. You guys are going to make an impact on people that will carry with them for their whole entire lives and even to the future. So I'm just thrilled as I could be to have you here. So
We
thank
are
you.
thrilled to be here. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Good. Anything else you guys want to say to the audience today?
Just thank you.
Yeah, thanks
really
for having
thank
us.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
And
It's been a
we
pleasure.
hope to make you all proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just come see us.
Yeah.
Come see us.
I'm sure you will. All right. Well, gosh, what two great guests today. Certainly had a great conversation. And I want to thank you all, too, for joining us for today's episode of Medically Speaking. And again, just a great conversation with Thomas and Ingrid Valente. And we hope that you'll check out our PEDS practice and our ENT practice. And like I say, thanks again for joining us. And we look forward to the next episode.